you again, Mr. Forbes, for coming in today. We're so excited that you're able to come and speak, especially since it's the 50th anniversary of BT, and then also this is, of course, the 44th iteration of the IC. I think I kind of just want to start off by asking you, how does that feel for you to come to this event? And especially, like, what are the most noticeable differences you see within the organization since you co-founded it?
Well, it's very exciting to be here, great fun. Starting any organization goes through a lot of road bumps.
Yeah.
We had a lot of ours in the initial years, and to see it grow, survive, and involve the number of students that it does is very thrilling and very feeling of real fulfillment. Having people from around the world, numerous countries, come together like this, I think shows how much the world is not only shrinking, but getting this people-to-people cooperation that enables us to move forward.
So did you think it would be this international when you first started it, or was that like
when we first started Business Today, we thought it would be a big deal getting it around campuses around the country. And having something of a global scale was something we couldn't even conceive of at the time. So this is a delight to see.
We're happy with it as well. So what was your inspiration for founding the magazine? Because of course you do come from like a publishing background yourself, but you founded it during a particularly volatile political period. So like maybe what were some setbacks that you faced, some of the biggest challenges, and maybe also some of the most exciting moments?
Well, the late 1960s, especially 1968, when Business Today was launched in the spring, was a turbulent time, and among many students, business was a bad word. It meant that you were wanted to do something less exalted. You were selling out. It was doing evil things. And if you were pure, you stayed away. And we thought at the time there was a lot of misunderstanding about business, about meeting the needs and wants of other people, that it does have a noble purpose. And just because it involves humans who are very imperfect, who many of whom will do some things they shouldn't do, that part of human history has been around forever.
Yeah.
And but commerce enables people by interacting with one another to enable us to all move ahead and enjoy a better life.
Amazing. And then you kind of brought this up yourself, but in terms of the interaction with business and politics, you yourself have of course been involved with both. So I was actually just wondering, what is the ideal relationship that you see between business and the political sphere?
Well, the political sphere should see its task, in addition to defending us, security, that's basic, but to create an environment where people can move ahead. As Lincoln put it, improve your lot in life. And that means sensible rules and regulation. James Madison, who was father of the U.S. Constitution, put it very well. I'm paraphrasing him. He said that if we were angels, we'd not need government, we'd not need laws. Well, manifestly, we're not angels, so we do need some laws. Law can be a teacher, but there's a difference between having rules of the road that say you shouldn't go 100 miles an hour in a school zone, and quite a different environment where regulators tell you what to drive, when to drive, and where to drive, overdoing it. And so the overdoing part has been a real challenge in recent years because every great economic crisis has as its root a government policy mistake, whether it's printing too much money, over regulation, over taxation. It's not, markets are not inherently unstable any more than human nature is inherently unstable.
So do you think that would be the biggest challenge facing the business sphere today, would be that like intense overregulation, or do you think that there are some other challenges that businesses face?
One among the challenges is overregulation. I think the U.S. is beginning to make some good steps in the right direction. For example, the head of the Food and Drug Administration has already had that agency approve twice as many new medicines as the year before, which is good for our health. The Federal Communications Commission trying to make sure the rules are for a digital age, not a dial-up telephone age, making some very good progress there. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. tax code is still a horrific burden. They've got to change that. And the need for a stable currency, stable dollar, is not sufficiently recognized. You know, we think it'd be crazy to have to worry each day the size of a gallon of gasoline we buy or a pound of cheese we buy floating. So too, we got to get the money right. I mean, we all know or taught markets work best, and markets or people work best when you have fixed weights and measures. And money should be a fixed measure.
Do I hear an advocating for the Bretton Woods system once more?
Yes, the Bretton Woods system worked in the 50s and 60s in this country. We had from the late 40s to the late 60s the greatest period of prosperity, of average growth, probably since the late 1800s. And but then in ignorance we blew the system up, and our average growth since then has been subpar, below what it should be.
That's great. I might move to some questions a little bit more specifically about you, if that's okay. The first one would be that you've been involved with content for your entire life. And so it'd be great to hear your perspective on the importance of good content, especially in relationship with both politics and to business. Like, what role does it play?
Good content? Content is information, and you should always ask, what is the purpose of this information I may be gathering and providing? What is it going to do for somebody? And whether it's could be entertaining, or it could be of a substantive nature to help you live better, do better, pursue business better. So information should have a purpose, and if you recognize who it is you're trying to reach and what it is you're trying to convey to them, your content will be clear, lucid, and readable.
Speaking of lucid and readable, you continue to contribute to Forbes and like write pieces. Why do you do that? Why do you still write if you don't have to? Like, you're running the magazine.
It's like, why do you breathe if you don't have to? If you didn't breathe, you wouldn't be around. So I like to do it, and still are curious. And if you're curious, then you want to enable other people to get the answers to questions and to be able to make better decisions. So life would be kind of empty if I couldn't do that, whether it's writing for the magazine, writing online, agitating for reform, like simplifying our terrible tax code.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've read a lot about that. I think that's one of my favorite policies that you advocate for, actually. Was that a challenge that existed in the business world, like when you were a student on campus? So, like, for example, like a really complicated tax code, or things like disseminating information. Was that also relevant back when you were a student writing about these issues? Or were there other challenges that they faced that like really motivated you to start writing?
Well, when we started business today, we felt there was a greater need to understand what business is and what it isn't, and to deal with the myths and to put things in proper context, give people access to information, ideas that they might not otherwise receive. And so we had a purpose from the beginning. And I'm delighted to see that half a century later, business today is still at it.
Still doing the same thing.
In essence.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to be mindful that you have to run out at 2:30. So I just wanted to finish up with a fun question. That would be that you are still a trustee at Princeton. So can I ask about like your favorite memory of being on campus? Was it related to BT or something different?
As an undergraduate at Princeton, I think the most vivid memories are starting business today. One of the things when you start anything, you have a real appreciation rather than an abstract appreciation of what it takes to make something happen. When we go to stores or do things, we don't have any conception of what goes in to presenting us what we see, and boggle the mind. So I probably spent more time working on business today than I did in the classroom, but I justified in my mind as saying I was combining a BA with an MBA.
I actually really like that. Do you mind if I steal that line sometimes? That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's what we say to ourselves when we justify the fact that we're here for 4 days instead of being in classes. So like if you could provide tangible advice to students, because your keynote was obviously wonderful, and something you were really focused on was the idea of innovation and like using available information to create new products. How would you make that real advice? So how would you tell students like, this is what you can tangibly do and the steps you can next take, like especially in your undergraduate career, to really take that challenge on?
Well, one is a general one, what my grandfather called stick-to-itiveness. Things don't always come easily.
Yeah.
Recognize you will stumble, and this is a time when it's very hard to say, don't get too hung up on the GPA, and take some risks, because you don't know what life is going to throw your way. Norman Borlaug, who won the Nobel Prize for his work on the so-called Green Revolution, which ended famine in places like India, he was in agronomy, but he had to call, he told students this when he was alive, he said he had to call on skills like politics, economics, things he never thought he would have to draw on to make his breakthroughs a reality. And so with young people, go out of your comfort zone. You may wish you hadn't, but at least you will be more rounded and be able to break out of a constricted life. We all tend to go into bubbles.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do better when you sometimes leave the bubble. And this is a good time to experiment with that. You may discover things you wouldn't have thought of before. One of the things about life is, yes, it can throw some hard balls at you, but also serendipitous things at you that you hadn't thought would have been possible. Like those two Australians, Marshall and Warren, coming across the idea in their work in the lab that maybe it was bacteria, not stress or smoking, all the other stuff that they thought caused ulcers.
Yeah, which prevented so many people from having to drink watered down milk.
Yes.
Okay, well thank you so much for coming in
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, absolutely same to you. We love the fact that you came in here, especially again, like we said, on such a big anniversary of PTs.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Okay.